The topic is spanking your kids healthy? Now, I need to give you context about one of the debaters that you're going to see. Now, this topic is about spanking. Let me just make this clear. It's in regards to spanking. So let me just give y'all some pretext to it, So these are two debaters that's going to be going at it, right? But his topic, spanking kids is good. Okay? Then let me give you context of the person on the left so you guys know the type of person you want to be dealing with. So just watch this real quick. I just want you guys to know the person you're going to be dealing with in this conversation when y'all hear this debate. That's all. Just context.
Is a 15-year-old mature?
A 15-year-old can be mature. Yes, that's exactly said.
Bro, mature enough to have intercourse with you as a man? A 9-year-old that is gone through puberty, right? Would it be okay with you to engage in intercourse with her?
Just as Martin Luther King Jr. stood up against racial segregation, Q-Top stands up against child abuse. I am so tired of you atheists abusing your children. You are literally destroying our youth, and I've had enough. Just as Abraham Lincoln stood up against slavery, Q-Top stands up against child abuse. I'm tired of it.
Yeah, so then that's fine. Yes.
No, that's not fine. That's not fine.
Is a 15-year-old mature?
A 15.
Okay, so the person's name is Q-Top. He's on the left side of this debate. I just want y'all to get an idea of who we're going to be dealing with.
What did he just say? He said that it's okay for a 15-year-old to sleep with a 9-year-old. Is that what he said?
Yeah. So basically, he's saying if a woman hits puberty and becomes, if she's physically and emotionally mature, meaning if she hits puberty, which can happen as low as the age of 10 for some girls, or 11, 12, depends. If they hit puberty, that to him, that means they're ready to be wed and you can sleep with them, basically.
He's going to jail. All right.
So, mind you, I just wanted to prepare y'all. I just wanted to prepare y'all for the type of individual you would be running into. Chill. Okay. So y'all want to say something? And mind you, I'm taking my biases out of this for his beliefs and stuff. I'm just going off the topic of what he's going to be talking about. But I just wanted to...
It's an hour long, hour 29 minutes.
No, he's not going to play the whole thing. I think he's just going to play the opening.
Okay.
Opening bit. Yeah. It's actually interesting what both of them have to say, but.
Yeah, you guys should watch this on your own time. I guess
it's interesting getting, as you said, the background to this guy, which I didn't know about, but it makes me feel like my instinct. Which I'll tell you later, it's better. It makes me trust my instinct. Anyway, but go on.
You think you're gonna say that spanking just because K-Dots said this earlier? They came from the white man. This isn't culture. This is like
Oh no. I'm not. No. I mean, spanking exists in many, but I don't think it's really beneficial. I'm not saying a parent can't do it, but I don't think it's beneficial. I don't think it has nothing to do with, because I mean, from what I hear from African kids, they was getting, in America, in some cases, we was getting switches, branches, and belts. From what I hear from kids in Africa, they be getting beat up a lot worse. Like they be getting beat up. They don't get,
Yeah, absolutely.
There's a difference between spanking and abusing, though. Let's get that clear, okay?
Well, okay. Let's.
This is what I was going to mention later, but what he's talking about in this video clearly has to be beating. There's beating and then there's spanking. So
the differences that we're looking for is a matter of subjectivity that will never be agreed on.
So play just a little bit, like whatever you want to play, whichever bit.
Let me just start the opening up so you guys can get a good idea of both their sides.
Yes, man.
This
has been
pretty much everything else together on the whole.
I know you heard, that whole encounter. Like if you're
you think it's okay to spank kids, I can.
Like
I said, you can hit me with all your points. I think I can defeat any point, any reason why you think it's okay to spank kids.
Okay, well, I mean, I would just appeal to the Bible. what it says in
Sure.
Proverbs 13. So
Sure.
Yeah. So
I mean, it says, "Do not spare the rod and spoil the child."
Oh.
Yeah.
So the end goal of that verse is not necessarily to spare the rod. The most important part of that verse is to not spoil the child. And it is consistent with the uncivilized nature of the ancient world. They didn't know any other way. Their lives were not as organized, not as easy as the life that we have today. I am of the opinion, right? Or at least I'm of the knowledge that a person who spanks their kid only spanks their kid because they lack knowledge of any other efficient form of communicating with that kid.
Which is bullshit.
Animal cannot understand you, so of course you got to beat it. You don't got a choice. But we live in a world where we have more efficient ways of communicating with our children, to the point where you do not need to inflict physical pain in any way, shape, or form in order to obtain the end result of discipline.
It is efficient. He's actually arguing the opposite thing. I was with him, but it is very efficient to have an instant reaction to this wrongdoing that the child is doing. Now he'll stop.
100%.
I don't think that's efficient at all. I think.
Well, let me ask
there's a couple of things, right? You're saying efficient.
Let me ask this real quick.
Efficient in the long term.
Sure.
Because it's not efficient in the long term.
Yes.
Well, let me ask this real quick. Because
I'll
look at it like
why, but he's keeps.
I just want to bring this up because I think this is very important, especially at the age you even start this at. I've seen, I'm just going to speak from what I've seen of what Black parents around me do, just Black parents. Some of them will start as early as the age a kid can walk. We might be 1 or 2, right? 1 or 2. And they'll be spanking them for the littlest things. But does that child really understand why you're spanking them? Because if you spank them, this child can barely speak as is. Because I would hope that if you're going to spank them, you're going to also tell them why you spanked them.
What age are you talking about?
As the earliest age a child can walk, which might be.
Okay. So here's the thing. You guys, you act like, the kid does something wrong and it's like automatically spanking. That's not how it works, right? You give them chances, obviously. You're not going to beat your kid on the first time they do something wrong. But if it's constant over and over again where they're just not listening, then you have to find other means to get that child to listen. 2 years old is extreme, right?
You can get other means to get a child to listen that doesn't involve having to
but
show.
It depends. But not
what happens? Hold
on, let me finish. Not all kids are the same. Not all kids are the same. Not all kids are the same. So what will work with one kid may not work with another kid. So you have to know who your child is, right? It's not like every child is going to be like, okay, we're going to beat every single child and it's going to work. It's not, right?
Can we first define what we're talking about with spanking? Because getting a child and spanking them a little on the bottom where it doesn't really hurt, I don't think that's a necessary way to discipline your child. But I don't think that's necessarily like some horrible abuse either. But then there is really inflicting pain, doing something, hitting to the point of inflicting actual real pain, to the point it can leave marks, maybe use a belt, maybe use a cane or something like that. What are we talking about when we're talking about spanking? Can we just clarify that? Or, you get so angry at one point, because they've done something
on the bottom, when you guys think about spanking, right? Because this is the thing, right? Sometimes what I've seen from parents, for example, Black mom, her version of spanking is a whole belt going like whoosh, 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 about maybe 5 to 10 times, whatever she got to do. Because everybody have different ideas of spanking. Some parents, their idea of spanking is like a tap in the hand or one slap on the butt. So what are your guys' idea of how it looks?
What are you talking about, Onzo? I'm asking Onzo specifically because he thinks it's okay to spank it. What are you talking about when you say spank a kid?
Well, to me, it's, it could be with a belt, You know what I mean? You can spank a kid with a belt, you know, on the bottom, whatever. But we also have to understand the age of the child also kind of determines what kind of spanking they're getting, right?
Okay, so
Because
give me an age, and then
you're not gonna spank a 2-year-old the way you spank a 7-year-old or a 9-year-old.
okay.
Right?
So let's
Understand?
talk about a 7-year-old, because I think a 2-year-old is, you know, like I don't
It's
understand
ridiculous.
why you would even hit a 2-year-old, because they
Yeah,
can't
absolutely. I agree.
possibly understand why
I
you're
agree.
doing what they're doing. So let's talk
I
about
agree.
a 7-year-old, and then let's talk about a teenager.
Well, if you're
So
beating your
what
kid as a
exactly are you
teenager,
talking about?
hold on.
Yeah.
If you have
How
to beat your
many?
kid as
What?
a
How hard?
if you have
Yeah.
to beat your kid as a teenager, and depending on, like, let's say 15, 16, then you failed.
Thank you. Thank you. Very,
Oh,
very,
wait,
very
I never
good
heard that.
point.
Whoa, wait. Anzo, that's it. I never heard that before. Say that again. That
I
last
said
part.
if you have to beat your child at 15, 16, then you failed. Right? Now,
Exactly.
granted,
I never heard that one before. Wait, that's
hold on.
different. I never heard that one
I
before.
will,
I'm not saying
but
that's bad. I never heard that before. That's
but
different.
hold on. I will agree again to everything I say. There's degrees to it. You understand? So you can have a 16-year-old where you have done everything correct, been the best parent you could be, but no matter what you do, this child will not listen to you. It's happened. It happens. I've seen it
And do
happen.
you know what? Do you know what that happens? Either that child is maybe some kind of sociopath or has some personality disorder, which you're never going to
Or
be able to change.
Nerman,
Or wait, let me finish. Let me finish. Or you need to go and seek actual therapy or some kind of intervention where an expert, not an expert, but
What are
like
you
somebody
talking
who,
about, nerd man?
no, 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 no,
Like
no, no, listen.
you're in this, like, perfect world, but you gotta understand, kids go out on the street, right? So you could just be talking about your son going out there and selling drugs or doing something like that. What kind of psychological thing are you gonna send this kid to for that?
Okay, so before what you said, if your child is going out selling drugs on the street, for whatever reason, not necessarily you failed them, but the whole project of that child's being brought up has failed. If your child
No,
at
that's not true.
14, 15,
Again, that's not true.
it could be not necessarily your parenting, it could just be the area you live in, right? And
Right. It could be
that's not
peer
always,
pressure,
that's
friends,
not friends,
100%.
whatever. But that
100%.
child,
That's
the
why I
project
said,
of that child's, that doesn't mean the child cannot change, but there
I'm
are
not saying that, but
better
that's what I'm saying.
ways of changing that child that don't
But that's
involve.
why I'm
It
saying,
means you either
hold
have
on.
some kind of limited ability, either mentally or
No, it doesn't.
in terms of your situation,
No, it
where you
doesn't.
can't
Some
change the
people, no,
circumstances
it
of that
doesn't.
child.
Some people
There
are
are
just
better
attracted to that
ways.
life,
There are
nerd
better
man.
ways than to hit
But
that child.
but some people are just attracted to that life, nerd man. Right?
And
You
let
can't
me
say
tell
it's
you.
this
Let
or
me
that.
let me.
I'm attracted to that fucking drug life. I'm attracted to that fucking rush you
Sure,
get. You know? Okay.
sure. If they're attracted to that rush you get, then they have psychological issues, and therefore they need psychological intervention.
So you
Right?
think
And
every
then
drug dealer?
let me
wait, hold on, guys.
add one
So you
thing.
think every drug
Let me
dealer
add
has
one thing.
psychological issues?
Let me
Also,
add one
Nerman,
thing.
let me add this into. Let me add this into, because over the years, and mind you, let's focus on black kids right now, like black kids specifically. A lot of things we don't do. There's a lot of black kids out here that have stuff that not even their parents know about, because they don't get them diagnosed to figure it out and see what's wrong with them.
That's
Just
true.
like how there's a bunch of white kids also have a bunch
That's
of
true.
mental issues and stuff. We
But-
never really
Right.
diagnosed that for our black children to really see like what's wrong. And then
That's true.
Like for example, Anzo, I'm not sure if y'all heard
And
of this.
don't get me wrong. These
wait, Nerman,
institutions
let me
as
finish.
well.
Hold
These
on, Nerman, let me
institutions as
finish
well.
real quick.
They try and fuck up black children. So I'm not. You
What?
need to find the right psychologist or the right person who actually cares about children. Don't just send them to some whatever person
Never
like
mind.
you know,
What I'm
and I'm
trying
not
to
saying
explain to you.
everybody has
Before
the
y'all go back
capacity
at
to
it,
do that.
let
I
me
am
add
not
in
saying
this.
everyone has the capacity to do
Wait a
that.
minute,
I
Nerdman.
am
Let me
just
add in this real
saying
quick.
that is a better way to deal with that situation.
No,
Where,
it's
like
not,
literally,
because
it's a better way to deal
you
with
could
that
send.
situation
So hold
than to
on,
beat your
I'll say
child.
this because I'm speaking from experience when I talk, right? So it's not like I'm just talking because I think I know. I've seen these kids. I've seen these kids who grew up with parents that gave them everything, but they were so attracted to the thug life, to the gang life, that they ended up in that business. They had no reason to. None whatsoever. They got everything they wanted to.
They were
So no
not.
matter what psychiatrist you send them to, they are not going to change that child.
Wait, but
I didn't
also,
say.
did those parents try a
Listen.
psychiatrist though? Wait. Did those parents try a psychiatrist, take them to the hospital to see what might be wrong with them? Like, did they even try that avenue? Because this is the thing. And I've heard these things before, and I've seen these things.
No,
Have you ever heard of those parents that have whooped their kids, like especially young kids that have bladder problems, and they would basically whoop them for pissing on themselves? You have heard of that?
Yeah,
I
problem.
Yes, I'm sure it happens, but yeah.
Right, and mind you, it's like, why are you whooping that kid for a bladder issue?
But again, you're talking
because
about
it's usually
the
the first
extreme.
resort for a lot
You're
of people,
talking
and
about
not
the
like the last
extreme.
resort.
But you're
That's
talking
not an
about the
extreme.
Hold on.
That's
Let me
not an
finish.
extreme. That's
Hold on.
common.
Yes, it is. No, it's an
That's
extreme
common
because if a
amongst
parent,
people
hold on. No,
who
it's not.
beat their kids.
No, it's
But every
Nerdman.
time I try and speak,
Stop. Let me
K-Dots tries to
finish.
speak. No,
Okay, but
I
I'm
can't.
not finishing.
You've made your point a couple
I
of
didn't.
times.
I
I
didn't finish my point.
wanna actually make this
I
point.
know, but you're making your point.
All
We
right,
let
fine.
you make your point.
All
And
right,
someone tries
let's
to
do
make a
this.
point, and then you
Talk
cut
for
in.
30 seconds, make this point, and then let me talk for 30 seconds on it.
I
Yeah, is
fucking
that
forgot
fair?
what I was gonna say now because you cut me off. You can't cut off a weed smoker when they're trying to talk, Nerdman. They're gonna forget.
All right,
But
I'm being dead ass.
Can I, while you're trying to gather
and also,
your
wait,
things,
I'm gonna let y'all go at it. Wait, I'm gonna
40
let y'all go
seconds.
at it. But
No,
also, wait a
K-Dots,
minute.
every time you say
I'm
I'm
gonna let you
going to
go
go
at it.
ahead,
But
I'm going to talk,
Nerdman, I
there's
know, but
one
what I'm
thing I
saying
need
is
to
I'm gonna
say.
let y'all go at it.
See,
But we
this
should
is what I'm
also
talking
see
about,
more
really.
of this conversation too. So you guys go at it for a bit, and y'all think y'all should hear more of the conversation that these two are having.
Yeah, we should hear more of the conversation, definitely.
But
okay, so there's a number of things, right, where I think, look, as Onzo's saying, there's nuance to everything. And every child is different. You can't just expect that you're going to go, oh, this worked with this one child I had, and therefore it's going to work with another child I had. So I'm not saying that spanking cannot work to discipline some children. I'm just saying for the vast majority of people, and even for those children where spanking does work, I believe there's more creative ways of systems of reward and punishment that you can use to help them. And if you do it from an early enough age, you're not even going to get into that problem later on where they become drug dealers or they're going out hurting people. Now, the negatives of spanking or beating your child, to me, so far outweigh what are the potential positives that even if it, say, for instance, it works with this child, the fact is it could not have, and what the negatives of that would have been are so much worse. So let me talk about some of the negatives. Hitting
Hold
your
on, you
child
just went for 30 seconds.
hitting your
Can I
child.
go?
I'm going to just explain the negatives, and then I'll stop. Hitting your child gives a bad example to them, which means they're likely to themselves exhibit that behavior because they are filled with mirror neurons. They mirror behavior that they see. So if you think if you hit your child, they are going to think the best way to solve solutions when someone wrongs them is through violence itself.
You are wrong.
That's the example you're setting for your child.
You
Not
are wrong.
always, but
You
a lot
are
of the
wrong.
time that's the example.
You are
Second,
wrong.
you can come back to any of these. You can come back. I'll remind
I'm
you
not
of
gonna
all the points.
remember, Nerdman.
I will remind you of any point.
So can you make a point?
So the
Can you
second
make a
thing,
point? And
the
hold on.
second
Can you
thing,
make a point? Hold on. Can you make a point? Then let me say
I'm making
something. Then make
three.
the next
I'm
point.
making three, and I will
But I'm
remind you
not
of
gonna
all of
remember
them.
all three. Just let me go with
I
this
will
one.
remind you of all
Oh
three.
my god.
I will remind you of all three. Second, it leads to deception in children. If you beat a child hard enough, so if it's not just spanking, right, it's actual beating, they will fear to come to you with situations when they've done something wrong because they're
That is
worried
not true
about
either.
the fact that if they do come to you with something wrong, that what they're going to receive is a big time whooping instead of actually somebody who can converse with them or punish them in a way that they don't
I get it.
actually
Yeah.
fear you to the point that they dread actually coming to you with a situation. It leads to runaways, people who will deceive rather than come to you when they actually have a real problem that something is wrong with them. Thirdly, it does also lead to feelings quite often of not feeling good about oneself. It can present itself as a trauma that goes on throughout their life. That means they feel that they're somehow bad or they're somehow undeserving of things that they have because they
Okay.
were beaten and the problem is
Oh my
often
god.
that beating this is the last thing because you could just going over me. This is the last thing. Often those beatings are not met with systems of reward that are equal to the beating. So if you're beating your child, you're not rewarding them in a good enough way when they do something good. A lot of the time, not all the time. Okay. So you have beating, but not good reward systems going along with it, which leads to very bad self-image. So you can go on. You can respond to any of those
First
points,
off,
Anza.
first off, the point I want to get to is you said the
I
beating
put
and
all in the private chat for you. All the points.
first off, you said the point of the beating of the kid who's peeing himself. So I say that's an extreme because any parent that's doing that should not be a parent. Okay, we know better
Okay.
than that. Okay, because I am a parent. What was the first point now?
Beating. Oh, hold up. Wait. I wrote it down. Kids might exhibit the physical behavior. So the
Okay,
beating
so
they're getting,
again,
they're going to
again,
push
that
They
is
model they'll
yeah.
model the behavior they see.
I got it. So first off, that's
Yeah.
bullshit because
Okay.
I grew up in a time where beating was that's what we all got with me, my friends, and everybody. We all got whipped, right? When I had a son, my situation was I'm not gonna do that. I said I'm not gonna do that. I'm gonna try something different. It got to a point where I had no choice one time but to give my son a spanking because he just wouldn't listen. Right. The problem with the
How old was
kids
he?
today, hold on. I
Give
think it was like
context so I can understand.
8. He was probably like 8.
He's 8 years old.
So
He wasn't listening.
yeah.
Okay.
All right. So the problem with the kids today is now they don't fear. You have to have that they call it like a certain type of fear for your parents, right? To know that if you do something wrong, you are going to get your ass whooped. That mentality
I
makes
was
you
with you until you said
hold
that.
on. Let me finish.
I'm
That
letting you finish.
mentality makes you think that when you're out there with your friends and your friends are doing some bullshit, you like, if I get caught, I know whatever happens to me here is not going to be as bad as what's gonna happen at home. Second point was what? K-Dot.
A second point was is in the private chat, but deception and a child may fear coming to you for something.
Okay. So again, that is wrong because when a child gets beat, right? They're not getting beat just to get beat. They're getting beat because they did something wrong. A child knows the difference between wrong and right. And they know if they
They're
do
taught the
something
difference.
wrong, there is consequences. Okay? So again, an
Consequences,
example
yes.
for me, an example is when I was fucking up in school, I knew that when parents teachers interview came around, my ass was getting whooped, right? Because I was fucking up in school. So I knew that. So I knew there was consequences to my actions. That's what a lot of these kids do. They have to know that there's consequences to their actions.
Sure.
If there is no consequences to the action that they do, you get the kids that we have now who feel entitled, who feel like they're owed the world because they have never felt any real consequences at home from their parents for the shit that they have done. What was the third one? Okay,
completely different.
let me get to the third one. Then you can
last point. Beatings with no good reward. So as much as the amount of times you're beating them, how often are you rewarding them for the good things that they do?
So that I really can't speak off of other people, but I know I was rewarded hell of a lot for doing shit that I did good. But you also have to understand rewarding a kid, especially from parents, maybe a single household, they may not be able to reward that kid the way that kid deserves to be rewarded. But at the end of the day, they may get a special meal for doing something good. They may get Burger King, they may get McDonald's or something, right? So it all depends on what that reward is. But at the end of the day,
you can
you're beating
always
a child.
reward a child. Whether
It
you're
depends.
poor
You can.
you're rich,
That's what I said. That's
you
what I
can
said. It may
always
not.
reward
It
a
may.
child.
Yes,
There's
but it may
creative
not
ways
always
to
be.
reward children.
It may.
It
Again,
could
let
even
me finish. You keep
reward.
cutting me off, bro. I let
Okay,
you
go.
talk.
All right, I'll respond
Thank
to each
you.
point. Sorry.
But what I'm saying is I'm saying yes, you can reward the child, but it may not be a toy. It may not be something because a parent may not be able to afford it. That's why I said it may be, hey, we're going out for McDonald's today. That may be a reward, right?
Okay.
That's
Can
what
I
I'm saying.
respond now? Can I respond now?
Go
To
ahead.
the third point
I'm not
first.
finished, but go ahead.
To the third point first. You can reward simply by saying just how proud you are of them. That as something as simple as that. They do a nice painting. They write a nice story. They do good in maths. They do good at just a simple like wow hug. This is
Okay.
amazing what
I'm
you've
sure
done.
they do that. Good
All of
parents
that
do
kind of
that.
stuff. I'm
Good
saying that a
parents do
lot
that.
of those parents who are like ultra disciplined
How
forget
do
to
you know?
they're ultra disciplined in the sense
How
of
do you
they'll
know
beat
that?
their kids. A lot of them, I'm not saying
How
all
do
of
you
them.
know
There's
that? I
always
know, but
nuance
how
in
do
this
you
stuff.
know that? No,
I'm
but how
just
do you
saying
know that?
that quite often
How do you know?
they
You're
forget
saying
because
quite
I've
often,
spoken to
but
a lot of
how
people
do
who've
you
been
know?
beaten. I was beaten, and I know the kind of parenting style of
And you
these
never
parents.
got rewarded for doing good
They
stuff?
do not.
You never
Some
got
of them
rewarded
do
for doing good stuff?
not.
I'm
Sorry,
asking you. You never got rewarded for doing good stuff?
not as much as I was beaten.
Maybe
Not as
because you
much,
didn't do
nowhere
so much
near as
good
much as
stuff
I
with
was
bad
beaten.
stuff.
I remember even a parent meeting during like I'll just talk from my own personal experience, but I know also of some best friends who we became friends over the fact that we were abused as kids, right? So one of the things I remember from a parent evening, all the teachers said how fantastic I was in in each of the classes. Like, oh, he's the best in math. He's the best in this. He's the best in that. Right? One teacher said, who didn't even teach me, by the way. She was just the head miss. She was the head of the year or whatever. Right? It comes and says like, oh, you know, he hangs out with troublesome kids and da da da. Because I did. I hung out with the cool kids. Right? I was good in school. I wasn't doing what they were doing, but I hung out with them. I was friends with them. She says, oh, you know, because of that, I'm some whatever. Like, I can't remember the exact things, but the implication was that I wasn't a very good kid or whatever. That was all I heard about from that parent meeting. Nothing of the 9 other teachers who said I was like good. All I hear about, and I've heard that reflected in a lot of people who have these ultra, even parents that don't even beat them. They're just ultra disciplined. They're like, you know, like whatever, like I don't know how to explain them, but like they're just ultra disciplined parents. They often forget that it is very significant to a child's development, right, that you reward or show care of the things of their qualities, their good qualities, of their talents, and all of these things, that you make sure you come to, if they're very good at
the
gymnastics or
small
something like
amount
that.
of people that
Okay,
you met by
so
every
that's what we're
parent that
all
does
doing.
that.
That's what we're all doing.
You know what I
Okay,
mean? You
I'm
can't
not
say
claiming
that's
to
what they're
be
all doing.
I'm not claiming to be omniscient. Okay, I'm not claiming to be God. I'm talking from my own personal experience, of
Well,
course.
that's what I'm saying. Okay,
Right?
so that's your experience. But you're saying
It's my
you're
experience.
saying because you have a few people that experience the same thing. Shit, I could get a few people that experience their fucking love
Sure,
for Zack Snyder
sure,
movie, right? But that's not the
sure.
majority. So you can't sit there and say, "Well, that's how they all do it," because they don't do it. That's what you
No,
said. You can't do that.
I'm saying that's a concern. I'm not saying that's what everyone does. I'm saying it's a concern of that style of parenting. If they do reward their kids, that's good. Okay, if they reward and then they spank, while I don't agree with the spanking, I agree that at least they have a system of punishment and reward, so that the child knows not only will they have consequences, which is what I think is the important thing, not spanking or beating them, that they have consequences for bad behavior, and that they have
So,
consequences for good behavior.
so what do
That's
you do?
that's what I
What do you
think is
do?
that
So never
once
mind.
you have a good balance between
Okay.
that, I
So
think
what do you do?
that for the most part,
No.
you're doing your job. If the child
Yeah.
goes
So let me ask you this.
wild anyway, then you can say, well, I did my
So
best. It's not my fault,
so what do
and
you do?
it's something that you need
Okay,
other kinds
but
of
here's the
intervention.
question. But here's the question, right? What do you do? Because again, at the end of the day, when you have a child, right, you see how this child is growing, right, and you
Yeah.
have an opportunity to change the bad behaviors between a certain age. So what do you do when that child does not respond to anything that you have done that
Okay,
does
so
not include
here's what I
spanking?
would do, and I know you've got a lot more wisdom on this because you are a parent yourself. But here's what I would do, and I'll see if it works. Maybe it won't, maybe it will. Right? I would take away, if my child was doing something bad, I would take away all the things that they enjoy doing, and I would prevent them from doing it for a number of weeks, unless it's something like going to gymnastics club or something like that, which is good for them, or it's something like reading a book, which is good
So
for them,
that's why I
right?
said we've
Anything that they
exhausted all of that.
enjoy doing, and I would give them extra tasks to do around the house, like
So
things that they have that they have to do like that, or they're not getting, any kind of like proper dinner, like nice food or something like that. They'll just
okay,
get
so
their plate.
but you're not answering my question because you're
Things like
bringing up
that
all the
would
things
be
that
the
you would do.
consequences of their
Right.
behavior.
But you're not answering my question because you're talking about things that you would do, and I said yes, okay, that's fine. But all of those things that you would do, you've exhausted all of those things, and nothing has worked. Then what do
If
you do?
nothing works with that child past that point, then I think you're looking at a child that needs some, like some for there's always a way of getting a second opinion, right? You can always get a second opinion
Okay,
on
you've
what's happening with
exhausted
that child.
everything that you
Maybe,
think about you
maybe,
can do.
maybe, maybe, maybe the reason they're acting out is because
You're not
You guys are
answering
maybe
my
hold
the
on.
wait,
question.
wait, 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 wait,
You
K-Dots.
guys are
Let me
missing something.
finish that. Let me finish this one bit. Let me finish this one bit, and then you can
You
go. I
added something
promise.
that
Like
helped y'all
literally,
flesh this out
literally,
more. Y'all missing the
literally
part.
one bit. Literally one bit. Maybe something's happening with that child that is nothing to do with you. Maybe they're being abused at school. Maybe that's the reason. Maybe someone's constantly beating them up at school, and that's why they're acting up. You don't know. You need to go and talk to
Again,
somebody and see have that child seen by somebody.
Okay, you're bringing up all
okay,
these
and
things
K-Dots
that
needs to
you
speak because I did say
but
that
I'm
I was going to
asking
make that
because you're
last
not
point.
answering my question. Because you're not answering my question. You have exhausted all of those things that you said you could do. You have tried everything. What do you do?
You're gonna have to give me more concrete because I think that.
Okay, let me wait.
If you exhaust all those things, then I don't know. Your child has to be a sociopath or something like that. I don't see any way you can exhaust all of those great parenting things that you can do to help a child, and you're doing it from the perspective of knowing that child.
Nerd man, because you don't have kids, is some kids will only respond to pain, only respond to that type of discipline. There are kids out there that no matter what you do, the only response that they will follow is if they get a little spanking here or there. There are kids like that.
But look at it like this too. Wait. Let me crack
for 1 moment, K-Dots.
Hold up. Wait. I need to add this in. So we're forgetting another factor, right? Another factor. And let me show this clip right here for an example. Not their conversation, but this. Now look at this case with this mother with this specific child, right? I'm not saying you should do this to every child. This is how she's dealing with her child. But look at this. Just look.
Stop it. Why? Sit down. Sit down. Stop. Sit down now. Why? Sit down. Sit down. Safe hands. Safe hands. Safe hands. Calm down, honey. You gotta calm down. You're hurting mommy. Why? It hurts. Safe hands. Safe hands. You're doing so good. Okay, just keep it up. Keep doing good.
So that is totally different because that kid has autism, right? If you have seen or been around a child with autism, you don't beat those kids. You don't, because they can't help what they're doing.
But also, and they factor this into, there's also kids that get diagnosed with it later too, because it's always not, because sometimes it develops later. It might develop at an early stage. But I'm not saying these kids are autistic. I'm not saying, but they got ADHD. They got all these other things, compulsive disorders. Like we don't know what they have. I'm not saying it's rooted just in that, but there's things that later develop that people do also need to keep getting their children checked on.
And then what you guys don't understand is sometimes there are kids that have none of that and just still do the shit that they do.
But that's saying why are they? But that's saying why are they doing it? Okay, look at it like this too. For example, I never grew up in the projects, but I stayed in project for about a good 5 years around a whole lot of shit that I can just do. Where to go hang out the dudes over there on the corner, probably get into selling drugs, get in with a gang or whatever, right? But I chose not to do so, right? Because the way I grew up, my dad never whooped me growing up. My dad just had to verbally talk to me about things, and I just, didn't do most stuff. My mom
is right.
My mom slightly whooped me, but she stopped around when I was like maybe age 5-ish. She stopped it. Never got whooped again. But still, I got whooped for things that was kind of like ridiculous for being a kid. Like if I'm playing and being a slightly too loud or whatever, I get popped for it. But it's like,
right, exactly.
It's gonna get loud. I mean, that's what kids do. I'm not saying I was being rowdy, but I was being a kid.
Did you get popped after being told to shut up for a couple of times, or did you just get popped? Hey, shut up!
No. She told me what I was getting popped for, but she popped me because I was playing and being a kid.
What I'm explaining to you is, did she warn you before? Hey, K-Dot, you're too loud. Okay, then. So that's what I'm talking about.
No.
Yes.
But, I know she warned me, but this is the thing. You don't need to pop me for being a kid. You asked me to be a kid. I'm being a kid.
Yes, being a kid doesn't mean you have to run around yelling, though, K-Dot. And if your parents are telling you, if your parents are telling you, hey, K-Dot, keep it quiet down there. Hold on, man. Just let me finish. One quick. You say, hey, K-Dot, keep it quiet down there. Yeah, okay, no problem. 10 minutes later, hey, K-Dot, keep it quiet down there. Okay, mom. Then of course you're gonna get popped
Now,
because
now,
two
mind you,
times
Okay.
before he
No, no, no,
now,
didn't
now,
no.
listen.
K-Dots. K-Dots,
now,
let
now,
me
wait,
respond to
also, wait. Look at it like this.
Okay.
So look at it like this, right? Now, look, I can understand. Like,
Like,
let's say
because
we
he's
have,
going to
let's say
respond to
we in
you
an
next.
apartment complex. Wait, also, let's say we live in an apartment complex. I understand you need to regulate the noise. But let's say you stand in a, big, a big 2-story house, right? Do I really have to be that quiet?
Yes, because you don't know what your mother went through. She
Okay,
probably out working all day, wants to come home and relax, and you in the bedroom yelling.
Because you guys keep going, like every time I try and get in between, you go, oh no, I need to talk, and then the answer,
Oh, y'all got,
I need to talk, like
y'all
in
also
between.
need to hear
But
more of this part too.
let me just
Go ahead,
respond to this.
go ahead. Y'all have
This
to
is
get
my
into it.
ultimate problem with spanking, and allowing people to do this. Why I think it's right that it's no longer legal. Okay, because in the end of the day, even if it does work with some children, you cannot trust the type of person, right? Not, I'd say it's 50-50, right? So say somebody like you, Onzo, you're responsible with spanking, right? And I from everything I know about you, every instinct of I have about you, of speaking to you all the time, tells me you wouldn't abuse your kid with spanking, right? That's the kind of person I see that you are, right? You would do it out of genuine reasons, right? But giving people who have that as a mentality the power to do that over their kids, I don't think, I think a lot more abuse will come out of that than the type of, or should I say about 50-50, right? It will be
So
50-50, where there will be people who are abusing their kids, who are beating them for silly things like wetting themselves, right? I think 50% of the people, even if it's just 30% of the people who would do that, it's enough of children who are going to be traumatized and turn
no.
into people later on in life that can actually present not only as dangers to themselves but dangers to society because of the abuse that they suffer and the trauma that exists within them,
So
right?
again, we're talking about abuse and we're talking about spanking, which adds to discipline. I disagree with you 100%, Noodle, because I know, like, I was personally that parent that was like, I'm not going to beat my kid. I'm not going to do it. I'm going to try a different way. And I did it for a long time until that one time, and I'll tell you exactly what happened. He literally went off on his mom and cursed the shit out of his mom. Like I've never heard him speak like that before. At that point, I knew that if I did not do that, he would continue to disrespect and be rude to his mother because there was no consequences as to his actions, right? And trust me, he's been rude many times before that where we didn't beat him. But that one time was where it went to a point because kids get to a point where, and not all kids, but they get to a point, especially boys, where they feel like they can test their parents. And they try. They try many
Can,
times. I
can
know
I
for
go?
me, hold on, one more thing. I know for
Yeah.
me, when
We
I
also
was
gotta play
growing
more
up,
of the video too, so y'all
I
can see.
was spoiled. I was spoiled, right? As a kid, I got everything. Like I could just ask my parents and I would get everything. I still stole. I still went to the store and stole GI Joes and Transformers and all that shit when I didn't have to. This is what I'm
Sure,
saying. So no
sure,
matter
but that
what, kids are.
can we can I, before you start playing the video, I want to talk about
Yeah,
another
because I
point
gotta
that
hear
you
more
made.
of both their points.
I
Yeah,
yeah,
like
I want
to
to talk
flesh it
about
out
another
even
point.
more, so y'all can hear it.
Okay, but now I'm gonna forget. So, um, Jesus Christ. So it was another point that you made earlier on, so about kids these days, right? And you can see, like, I've got it in my own class. Like, I can see, like, the kids running riot, like, because their parents basically don't really, like, discipline them. You know, I'm not even talking about spanking. I'm just talking about giving them just general consequences to, you know, behavior, bad behavior, and it ends up me and my teacher, co-teacher, have to be, you know, like constantly correcting behavior that I feel like parents should be correcting, not, you know, teachers, right? So I agree with you. Like there's a you know, not and it's not just this generation. I think it's just the amount of abundance that we have in this world, right? At the moment, especially well in the Western world, means that, you know, kids get like to watch TV all the time, to, you know, not do much, you know, by way of, you know, imaginative play or creative play. It's just like, you know, just all the things that are available to kids, video games, all of this kind of stuff. And there is an entitlement that grows with this, like along the way, because they get everything they want, and it's, you know, it's easy, it's affordable for parents to get like certain things that kids want. So
I think
my basic point is that there is a problem in society with that at the moment. I completely agree with you. I don't know that beating is the response to that. I don't think that beating necessarily. I think beating presents the other extreme to that problem, right? And there's got to be somewhere balanced in the middle, where you get your kids to be doing things that they enjoy, that they become passionate about, and that they love, and that is good for them, rather than them sitting around, you know, like being, you know, as this guy says in this video, spare the rod, spoil the child. There's two parts of that.
I'm gonna let Anzo go before I play the
part
rest of it.
the part that you shouldn't do is spoil your child. That does not necessitate that to not spoil your child, you have to beat them, right? That's it's the decoupling of these things. Both things are bad.
But no one's saying spoiling your child, you have to beat them.
Well, okay. Let me say this real quick too, so we can play this video. Y'all can get more of a perspective. Y'all need to see the full video. Okay. And I think I agree with Nerman on the extremes. One thing I noticed that my brother does for his kids, he spoils them too much. But also, there's another side where they don't want to give enough to the kid. And it's like, you need to find that middle ground, the middle area. And I think there's too many parents that do it the extreme thing. Like, for example, first thing their way of dealing with it is, I gotta spank this kid, right? And then the other side is, well, I'm not really gonna discipline them for what they do. I'm just gonna let them be carefree and all that and stuff. And it's like, and my idea of discipline isn't just, you know, hitting the kid. That's not my idea of discipline. Just like what Nerdman said, if you got to take away their phone and do something like, well, you're gonna read these books instead. Because I'll just say this, kids today, if you take their phone, take the phone, that's them. They're the whole life is shit. If you gotta take their phone and say you're gonna read these books, you're still gonna take care of tasks, but you're
not gonna be able to get this phone back until you give me a report on the book and make sure you've read the book, so that you know that when they give you that report, it's an accurate report that they've actually read. Although they kind of spoils that, because they
what
can
if you
get
take
like,
the child's phone and they attack you?
Well,
if you take the phone and if you see, this is a problem.
Wait. That's the thing too. That's the thing
because it's
happened. He's right.
No, I'm not disagreeing. Wait. I'm not disagreeing. I'm not disagreeing that some kids have done this, but why is that the first child's response to attack you? Now, I'm not saying you're the reason, but is it a exterior thing? Is there something happening, like maybe at school, just like Nerman said, where they might be getting abused or something, or maybe they're getting
some kids just don't want you to take their phone.
No. Also, there's actual things within these phones, within TikTok, that we're all suffering from. I was reading even today about the link between ADHD and being addicted to the internet. Right? There's things that algorithms and stuff that they put into this stuff that makes kids addicted to it to the point that they may lash out and attack you, just like a drug dealer, like a druggie.
And it could be something they saw on the phone that caused that.
Right.
It could be something they
So
saw on
this
the
is
phone
a
that
big
caused
problem. This is
Yes,
a big problem. I
parents-
don't know that beating your child. I mean, you obviously have to defend yourself if your child, like, if they're big enough, especially, and they come after you, like, because you took your phone, you have to defend yourself.
Wait, better yet. Hold up, Nerman, better yet. Better yet. Wait, Nerman, better yet. Let's say that does happen.
There's a better way to deal with it than beating the child.
Let's say that does happen. Let's say your child does lash out on you. Anjo, let's say your child doesn't pop off on you, right? He doesn't pop off. Well, he does pop off on you. Let's say you never spanked the kid or whatever, right? Because you took his phone. I'm not saying you can't use physical force, but you can restrain him physically and figure out, like, hey, why are you doing this? I'm not saying you need to launch back him. Boom.
I'm not saying that
but, defend yourself. Go like, hey, like, what's going on? What's going on? Like, because you don't have to push them back with violence.
The greatest,
you don't have to like hit them with the exact same force. Back.
Can I agree? Can we agree on this, Onzo? That let's just agree on this, okay? We'll put aside spanking for the moment, like whether it's good or bad. If there was another way of disciplining your child which was just as effective as spanking, would you not prefer to do that than spanking?
Of course.
Can we agree on that?
Of course.
Yeah, like spanking is kind of like a last resort kind of thing, right? It's like you don't really want to do that.
Spanking is always a last resort. It's always
so you don't really want to do it.
This is my point. But this is my point. Sometimes, no matter what you do, sometimes you have to. That's what I'm saying. I'm not sitting here and saying you need to be beating your kids, but sometimes you have to. I know personally.
No.
Hold on, let me finish this point. Let me finish this point. Let me finish this point.
You're going away from the argument. I just wanted to know if you
let me finish my point.
Wait, let him finish it real quick. Hold up. Wait, let
me finish my point.
You're trying to justify
Let me finish my point. No, I'm telling you.
Maybe
I know for me. Hold on. I know for me that if I did not get spanking, I would be a drug dealer and on the streets hustling. Just like every single one of my friends were.
Sure. So again, and some of those kids who were drug dealers, by the way, got beaten themselves, right? So let's not pretend that every single kid that becomes a drug dealer or a criminal is not somebody who was abused in their head.
I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is, I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is because. No, but what I'm saying is because of what I got at home, because I had that fear of my parents, I didn't do what I had to do.
Wait, you gotta let Dirt. But y'all go one at a time.
I'm not finished. I'm just saying because of what I got at home, I didn't do what they did.
Okay, we both agreed that if there's a better way of, a way that doesn't involve spanking or beating, that you would choose it over spanking or beating. Now,
what's your point?
Here's the thing. I think the greatest tool, and I'm not saying that way would be the same for every child, but the absolute best way to be able to find a way that is better than spanking or beating, or if there is a way better than spanking or beating, is knowing that child.
Yes, I know that. That's what I said.
To know that child. So going back to the example of the phone, maybe the reason they lash out at you when you try and take their phone, apart from all the horrible algorithmy bullshit that they do to get
hold on, everybody. Keep that thought. Let me answer this question. Hold on, keep that thought. You got spankings and you're a person that hit your kid. So first off, I have one kid and I only really spanked him once, and it worked out fine because me or any of my kids have never been arrested, never been in jail, and have never done any other thing bad. So yes, it worked out very well. Thank you very much.
Okay. So
let me also play this video because I think it'll help flesh out more of y'all. Diaz and shit. But go ahead, Nerman. Go ahead. I can play the video.
Noodle, I'm with you with a lot. I'm with you with a lot of things, but I know that Onzo is not like an abusive person to his kid. I can tell you that 100%.
Me and my son are best friends.
Yeah, exactly. I know that. That's why he likes all that MCU bullshit. But anyway,
and 25 years old and still goes to see these movies with me. So it worked out very well, Noodle.
And I think one of the reasons why you probably haven't had to spank or beat your kid that much is because of the relationship. You just said you and your son are best friends. And a lot of parents aren't best friends with their children where they get to know them. So I was going to give an example. One of the reasons, wait. I was going to give an example of one of the reasons.
There's a degree to that too.
Yeah. Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Because you can't be full out best friends with your kid. Right, exactly. Yeah, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So one of the reasons that I'm with the same with my students, by the way, like I'm best friends with them, but I'm also like, okay, at a certain point, you realize I'm teacher, you're student,
right?
Okay.
Because they still can't speak to you a certain way, right? They still can't speak to you the way they would speak to certain other friends. So yeah, there's a degree to it. Okay.
Absolutely, 100%. So one of the reasons why they might lash out because you're taking their phone is because they're in a relationship with someone, or and they want to speak to them, or and they don't want to be able to miss something that they're saying, or there may be some other ulterior reason why they'll lash out and take the phone, other than the fact that they've got all these addictive kind of things in them. So if you don't know your child, you won't know that's the reason that they're lashing out because of that. That's what I'm saying. The greatest tool to be able to avoid having to feel that it's inevitable to
let me agree with you with that. I agree with what you're saying about that. But most phones have right. But most phones have like a privacy lock on them, so you probably won't even be able to get into the phone if you take it away from them. So it's not like you're really going to see what they have in their phone.
No, I mean get to know them, not by trying to sneak into their personal life.
I know, but But what you said was you take away their phone, and that child may lash out because there may be something on the phone that they don't want you to see or whatever. But if they have a privacy lock on it, then the chances of you seeing it, unless they tell you what the code is, you know what I mean? You're not going to know.
Yeah. But I wasn't trying to say that you're trying to get. When I say get to know them, that doesn't mean you have to get like. I'm talking about like.
Wait, hold up. So, Terrence wanted to see what you thought about his comment.
How he feels that being beaten was something that helped him or something like that. I know he said that earlier. Sorry, put it again. I just saw it. So K-Dot, forming a strong bond with a kid happens when the parent establishes discipline and respect. When the child is older, it's very likely they will view their parents as a parent's friend.
100%.
It's also about like a loving environment where they have like good memories of you and good fond memories and fond like a shared positive experience. I think is also very important, rather than just order and discipline. You need order and discipline, 100%. But you need
and also let me ask you guys this real quick, because look at it like this, and Jayla does make a good point on this. You have to factor this in too.
But okay,
wait. A man and woman is not encouraging their relationship to use physical force to deal with each other, right? And mind you, there's people who will beat their animals to get them in line because they don't understand what's up. But we do this exception for little kids, right? And I mind you, even when it comes to adults, like if another adult, it's another adult, it's assault, and there's huge backlash towards it, right? There's huge backlash towards it, but when it comes to the kids, we kind of make an exception of hitting them more than, let's say, even your spouse, because you're not going to slap your girl up, or the girl should be slapping her man up just to get him to, put the toilet seat down correctly, right? After you take a piss, put the toilet seat down. we're not going to be hitting our spouse for
Right.
that. So why
The
does
difference between the spouse and that is because you can always leave a spouse, right? You have your child for
You can't
life,
leave
and
your
if you
kid.
want to be a good parent, you're gonna be there for that child's life. A spouse you can leave. You don't need to sit around for that. That's why I don't understand why she keeps bringing up the wife stuff. Because if it gets to that point, you just leave. You don't hit your wife. You leave. You have no reason why you have to stay in that relationship. You can bounce.
Okay, I want to know one thing though, and I know being a parent is different, but it's strange to me how I can have, like, I've worked in public schools, I've worked in private schools, and I've had 15 to 25 kids in my class at a time. A lot of them rowdy, right? Why is it that I have been able every single time to bring some order to the class and to have discipline children, and have them have consequences for their behavior with 15 to 25 kids, by the way, between the ages of 6 all the way to 12. I've been able to do this every single time. And I've never, ever, even though I felt like it, don't get me wrong, there were times where I felt like it, where I was like,
up to a
you know
teacher.
what, I would have
Some kids
fucking,
look up.
I was
Some
going to
kids.
throw, but
Some kids
there was
look
a
up
time
to a
where I was like,
teacher. Some kids respect teachers, right? Some kids have this thing where it's like, oh, my parents are always on my back, even though they're just trying to do the right thing to get you to do the right thing. You take, as a kid, you sometimes take that as a kid always being on your back, right? When you have a teacher or something like that, you don't look at them the same way, so you might have a little bit more respect. Some kids have more respect for like a teacher or someone they look up to, because a lot of kids don't look up to their parents, and that's the person that a kid should be looking up to, not a teacher, not a celebrity, not anybody else. They should be looking up to the parent. Some kids don't do that.
I'm gonna answer T Virus, but I just wanted to say that, like, it strikes me as
we also gotta play more of this video.
I've never, even when I felt like it, I've never had to at any point, like, it's never been like I can't get them under control by another means. I've always been able to get them under control.
But you shouldn't be even thinking about beating the kid anyway. So that's not even in the.
Trust me,
you know what I mean?
When you're in a class
I know. You may think about it. I get it. You know what I mean? You may think about it, but you could never do that.
Yeah, of course, I can never do that. I'd be fired and whatever.
Okay, right? Yeah.
But that's
hold on.
That isn't the reason I don't hit them. It's genuinely because there's other ways of getting around it. Right? There's other ways I've found of getting around those situations. And regarding what you've been saying, T Virus, I don't know that has led to the healthiest, like, to keep it a buck with you, like, I don't know, and I'll say this about myself. I don't have the most healthy, self-image and like, I think there's problems that have occurred on the basis that I was abused, not spanked, abused as a child. It's problems I'm dealing with today. I should probably be in therapy for it. So with you, I feel the same. I as much of a great person as you are, I could have told you before you even said it that I think you were probably beaten as a child.
But you think that's the reason why Terrence is why he is? Because it's not. I'm going to tell you that right now. It's not. It has
I'm not
nothing to do
saying
with
that's the reason why he is why he is. I'm just saying, like, I could sense from talking to him for a long time that, like, perhaps, something like that could have happened in his youth. And And the last thing, to take it away from like a personal thing to a more objective thing, is like it may well have worked for you, but I think the danger that it presents to just give parents carte blanche to hit their children, there's far more risk than there is reward, rather than, you know, which society doesn't do either, which it should do. You know, just like in the kind of African proverb, it takes a village to raise a child. I think there should be some kind of things like, it's hard to be a parent. You should get like some support or ideas of how to deal with conflict with children and stuff like that. How would I say, like, not society can provide you or something, but just, you know, just like where you can air out like certain things and come up with solutions. Maybe, you know, a parent is going through a similar thing and they've resolved it with their child, and it's something that you could try with your child. I just think there's more things like that can be done, where like there's a more of a shared kind of thing of,
But yes, you can sit here and you can say, yes, there are more things that can be done. I don't deny that. What I'm trying to explain to you is sometimes, maybe not all the time, sometimes you may need to go upside that child's head, right? We have to understand too, a lot of where you live, the environment you live in too, also affects the way these kids act. You understand? So if a child doesn't have that, I guess you want to say, you know, fear of going home and getting their ass whooped because they did something wrong on the street, then they're going to go and do what they have to do. You know what I mean? Consequences, you can take stuff away. That may work for some kids, 100%. There may be things that work for some kids that won't work for other kids. What do you do with the ones that it don't work for? You know what I mean? You have to understand, and that's why I said at the beginning of this, you have to know the child that you have.
yeah,
Right?
exactly.
That's a
In knowing
100% thing. You have
in
to
knowing
know
them,
that child.
I think in knowing them, that's probably, you know, once you know them, you know, you'll be able to figure out strategies that perhaps would be just as successful as hitting them.
You're
That's
right.
what
You may be, and you may know that child and know that the only time they act correct is when they get a spanking.
Sure.
Yeah,
Again, I didn't want to.
It's a figure of
Let
speech,
me
Noodle. It was a figure of speech.
Well,
let
let
me
me finish that. Let me add. We got
let
to
me
because
respond to T Virus, because I don't want to offend him. Yeah.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
I'm not saying like I'm just taking cues off of having spoken to you, just like you would do me. You know, I'm sure at some point you've intuited, well, this is possibly something that John Paul, you know, or Nerdman may have faced in life, just from having talked to me and knowing that my attitude towards certain things. Right? I'm not trying to put you in a box or anything like that. So don't get it twisted. I'm just saying, like, I don't. You may perceive from, you know, your experiences that was the best route to take. I think, you know, like, say for instance, like in a hypothetical world, little T Virus was my child, right? I think I may have been able to figure out ways above and beyond like beating you to get similar results, or you know, good results. So that's all I'm saying. I don't know you. I don't claim to know your personal life or anything like that. I just, at certain points when you've spoken to me, I got like this feeling that maybe something like that happened to you. So that's it.
Yeah, and also let me say this too before I play the video. And another thing we need to look into, especially if you have multiple kids. Alonzo, you said you have one kid, only one. So, right, just one kid so far. You sure?
Yeah, I'm sure.
All right, just making sure, Alonzo. Shit. No, I'm just saying you make sure you don't have another kid running around here, Alonzo. But think about. I also add this into, and I wonder what your guys' opinion is on this. Let's say someone is a child of 8. Let's say someone is a child of 8 siblings, right? And the baby, right? Obviously, the baby. and let's say the first 5 kids was getting spankings, and then the last 3, right, don't get spanked. Like at all. They get disciplined in a very different way. How do you think that dynamic is going to look for all the siblings and how they look at their parents? That's like the first 5 get spanked, and then the last 3 don't. What do you guys think that dynamic might cause?
Depends on the age. You know what I mean? Depends on the age of the child. Some kids may resent it. Some kids may be like, "Oh, you're lucky because when I was growing up, you know what I mean. Mom and dad had a thicker handed bust our ass, whatever. You know, so it depends. It depends.
Yeah.
Well, let's say if the siblings like start to build animosity out of it. Would that reflect on? Like, let's say the older siblings treat the little siblings a little different because it's like, wow, mom and dad was beating the shit out of us, and why the fuck are y'all getting it treated different, right?
But you see, again, there has to be more context to it, right? Maybe the kids that aren't getting beat aren't doing the stuff that the older kids did. You know what I mean? Maybe that so you don't really know. There has to be some sort of context. Like if they're all doing the same freaking thing, and then the first 3 or the first 2 are getting beaten, the last ones aren't, then it may cause an issue. But it all depends on how the kids are acting.
I mean, I see the dilemma that you're talking about. Honestly, Onzo, like of just exhausting all possibilities. But I think that's so rare. Like I don't know that. Even in the situations you're talking about, where you're saying, well, they wouldn't listen to any other reason, whatever. You know, sure, I wasn't there. I can't, say 100%, but just off my gut instinct, I feel like maybe there possibly was other ways. Maybe there was something like, like.
Wait, hold up. Before y'all go, let me play this. I want y'all to hear more of this. Y'all need to hear more of it because they gonna.
Well, I'm not saying look. I know you're a smart guy and whatever, and you probably know what was best at the time. But like, I just feel like maybe there might have been a different scenario for me.
For who? You're talking about for me? I'm telling you, there was no other way. I am telling you. I am telling you because I would not listen to anything they said unless I got my ass whooped. I just wouldn't do it. I wasn't. I was going to school. I never skipped school, but I wasn't doing my homework. You know what I mean? I would come home. I would fool around. I would do other things, no matter what they did. And they've tried everything. They took away shit from me. They wouldn't let me do anything. But I know that when I got my ass whooped, I didn't do the things that I was doing.
So,
I know that.
Taking that example, it sounds to me like they've already done some parenting that.
Yes, of course. Again, that's what I said.
Wait, Onzo, let me speak here.
No, because I don't want you to sit here and try and analyze what my fucking parents did, bro. I don't want that.
I'm analyzing what my parents. Is it okay if I analyze?
Keep what you were doing to yourself. But my parents are gone. I don't want you trying to analyze anything my parents did.
Okay. All I'm saying is that if you extract that scenario from yourself and just put it on like whoever, right? I'm just saying that there's steps that can be taken prior to that. Because you're skipping. Why is anyone skipping?
I'm telling you, none of those steps worked for me. I'm telling you.
Okay, tell me those steps.
Taking away my stuff, punishment, not letting me go outside. Again, I was spoiled, so I used to get everything I wanted to. They wouldn't buy shit for me. So they've done that.
Wait a second. You were spoiled.
Locked in my room to where I can't come outside my room unless I'm going to eat or whatever. They've done all of that to me. None of it worked. Because as soon as the punishment was over, I went back to doing what I was doing.
And what were you doing? You were skipping school. Tell me.
I didn't say, no, I wasn't skipping
school. I'm not trying to analyze you. I'm going to.
I wasn't skipping school. I said I wasn't doing my homework, right? I wasn't doing my homework.
You weren't doing your homework.
Yeah, that was the biggest thing. I wasn't doing my homework. I was acting up in class, stuff like that.
Okay, and did they ever again, if that was the case, can somebody not sit down with you and do your homework?
I will tell you this for the last time. They have yes, they did that, nerd man. They used to have me go to my teacher and sign a note saying I had homework or not, and I still didn't fucking do my homework. This is what I'm telling you. Nothing worked.
Okay. Don't get like testy about it. I'm not saying your parents.
Because you're like, oh, maybe they did this. They tried everything. I'm telling you, they tried everything. I'm telling you, they tried everything. My dad used to fucking call my principal every day. I got suspended for fighting. Hold on. I got suspended in school for fighting. My parents knew before I got home.
Okay. And were you beaten before you were violent, or you were violent before you were beaten?
I was never violent.
So you weren't violent, and then you got beaten, and then you got suspended for fighting at school.
I got suspended for fight, and I didn't get beat for that. I didn't get beat for being suspended. I didn't get beat for that. I told you there were things that I was doing that my parents told me over and over again not to do, and I still did them. No matter what they tried to do, and they were hands-on in my school, and I mean hands-on, and it still wasn't working. The only time I got good marks is after I got a beating.
Okay, the only time you got good marks is after you got a beating. All right, fine. My point to all of this, right, is that I'm trying to do this so I'm not talking specifically about you, because I know that kind of profile of a child doesn't do their homework, doesn't whatever. The issue there is that I think a lot of the time parents are relying on teachers to make a child enjoy or love a topic, whether it be science or whether it be literature, whatever it is. They're relying on teachers, right? And how many kids were in your class on average?
15,
like 30, 20?
15.
Okay, that's a lot of kids to be in a class for a teacher to hold the attention of of all those kids and make them love a topic. Sometimes
even teachers I liked couldn't do anything. It didn't matter whether I liked the teacher.
It doesn't matter. Okay, I get that. But sometimes as a parent, I think that there's a neglect, and I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about there's a neglect. If you leave your teaching of your child and I'm talking about subjects like science, maths, whatever. If you leave that to a teacher, rather than you actually taking an active role in finding ways of your kid, it could be just simple things of like going to like a science event or a science club and doing some fun sciencey things with your kids so that they get the reason why science is cool or science is interesting, or going to the theater with your kids so that they
movies, bro. This is reality.
Literature comes alive.
This is reality, bro. Come on,
that's
nerd man.
Like, really,
but if a kid doesn't like fucking science, but if the kid doesn't like science, taking him to a science museum is not going to make him like it anymore.
I'm not saying it will. I'm just saying, it's an option.
Well, I think so. This is what Nerdman's saying.
Yeah,
for an example, when I was in history class, one thing our teacher did, I like history, and one thing our teacher did when we was talking about the French Revolution, when the game Assassin's Creed Unity came out, he was playing the game in class with us, which is showing like the different monuments and stuff, landmarks, and we was also watching him play through the story and stuff. And that's how he got us engaged, because he knows we as kids like video games. So he likes video games too. Let me play a video game with them about the French Revolution that's going to get them engaged, right? Now, I would say as a parent, right, you can also do that too. Play some games with kids.
And let me ask you this. Were most kids in that class really concerned about what was going on in the environment, or were they more encouraged with the game? Right? So you gotta ask that. You're gonna have kids sitting there watching it, but they don't care.
Let me factor this into. Well, we had a cool history teacher, like he was in the comics and shit. He was probably one of the only cool teachers we had in that school. But he knew that he had to do different types of things to keep us thoroughly engaged, because a lot of teachers don't know how to do that shit. And a lot of parents might do. Let me give another example. When I was in my junior year, all the stuff I needed to learn about doing taxes and shit, learning about credit, I learned that in school. And my teacher was not supposed to be teaching us that stuff. He broke curriculum to do this extra thing with us as long as we got some stuff out the way. And I'm not saying my parents didn't teach that, but like I learned things that my parents should have been teaching me from my teacher.
So most parents don't know how to do taxes, and that's a thing that they should actually be teaching you in school, and not the bullshit that they do teach you. So again, that's totally different, right? You're talking about him teaching you something that you're actually going to use in life. No one's going to fucking use algebra in life, right? So I don't like algebra, so I'm supposed to go to a math class.
Completely untrue, Onzo. If you want to get your kid to do a job that they actually love, rather than just be like, like some cog in a machine doing shit that they fucking hate, then you best believe algebra and other kind of mathematics.
I know this. I know this.
They will be important.
Yes, I know this. But how often do people who get out of school use it? This is my point.
They're doing shitty jobs that they fucking hate. That's because they're doing shitty jobs that they fucking hate.
Hold on. Algebra. Hold on. Hold on. Let me finish, there, man, because you're cutting me off. Algebra, calculus, and those things, I believe, should be taught in college, where you could say, I want to get into engineering. I want to do this. Yeah, you can learn basics of it in high school or whatever. Hold on. But what you should be learning in high school is how to balance a checkbook, how to save money, how to do algebra, your taxes and stuff.
Yes, you should learn that. You should.
Life skills, because not everybody is going to go into that field, nerd man.
Onzo, you should learn that. Of course, you should learn that. But what I'm saying is, the reason people, like, for instance, with mathematics, right, or with science, and this is what I've learned, like working in private schools, like as well. Right, the way they go about teaching in comparison with public schools is it's like night and day. They get the kids interested in why mathematics is fascinating. When you look at mathematics as just like some formulas, like you have to just solve or whatever, then it is fucking boring. And to be honest, even when they're doing it the interesting way, right, that may get, let's say, 6 more kids interested, then so instead of it just being 5 kids that are interested in the class, and the other kids are just messing around not thinking about anything, it's like 11 kids, right? It's not going to capture everybody, even if you teach it like the really
you're talking about private
right?
school,
but it will reach out to more people.
Maybe it will. Maybe it will. Maybe it will. But the majority of people that are going to use that in their life are less than the people that won't. Right?
That's because it's not taught properly. That's because it's not taught properly, dude. If it was taught properly, more people would be using that in their lives.
Some people don't care about those certain things, right? Some people already know. So hold on. Some people already know that they want to do certain things in their life that, like, let's say, I don't know, I'm trying to think of a fucking profession that someone might want to do, right? And they know this from high school. Like, this is what I want to do, right? They're not going to use algebra for that. But that's what I'm saying. But that's exactly what I'm saying. So what I'm saying is you should teach more life skills in high school.
Who wants to be a janitor or a shop clerk when they're in school?
But I'm not talking about janitor or shop clerk. Just a simple
I'm
accountant.
asking you, who wants to do that?
Nobody.
Zero. That's the answer.
Okay,
Zero
but
people.
Those aren't the jobs I'm talking about. But those aren't the jobs I'm talking about.
Working in an office, just doing some, bureaucratic kind of bullshit. Who wants to be doing that? Who says, that's really, because those are the people who don't need to use algebra.
How many people sit around? But how many people sit around and say? How many people sit around and say? How many people sit around and say, "I want to be a fucking engineer"?
A lot. There are some kids who want to be engineers. They might not know the term engineer. They may not know that term specifically, but if they're interested in like building things,
of people,
they're interested in when they're interested in like.
You see, here's the problem. Majority of people want to be basketball players. They want to be stars. If you ask most people in high school what they want to be, they usually want to be some kind of fucking celebrity, right? I want to play basketball. I want to play football. I want to play this and that. My point is, if there is a child, like let's say LeBron's son, just using that as an example, who knows he'll never use algebra in his life because he's going to be a basketball star, what's the point of teaching him it?
Justin, okay, but this is the point. This is the point. Hold on, let me say this. The point is, the point is, just in case, because you got to teach my wide variety of things to see what they want to explore. Because ultimately, it's going to be their choice of what they want to explore. Now, also, I would say this. I do also agree that there's some bullshit stuff that they like. For example, I'm not saying kids don't need calculus, but like you definitely for sure need algebra and the basic maths for sure. Maybe geometry, maybe, but all that extra stuff they can go for maybe college for that. But it also allows for them to figure out more like, okay, I'm liking math a little bit more. I want to get into engineering.
You can introduce
history a little bit more, so I want to get into history.
You can introduce them to that stuff. Yes, 100%. You can introduce them to that stuff. I agree with you 100%. But you also have to teach life skills to these kids.
Can I tell you one thing I agree with?
Especially now.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I want to tell you one thing I agree with you on. It's in two parts. The solution to what you're talking about. Obviously, kids need maths, and they need more than just basic maths. When they're, when like adding and subtraction. That's what I mean by basic maths. They need more than that, right? From a very young age, so that they can familiarize themselves, so that if they do want to become like engineers or something like that in future, they have a good foundation. But forget about all that. Here's what I agree with you on. Perhaps if a child has a strong feeling towards what they want to do, or the areas they want to do, say they want to be sports people or something, that you can emphasize that more in their education, right? Yes. So that they do things around sports. Yes. And then the second thing, right, is that that I really do think they do exams way too early. There's nobody who should be doing exams that are going to determine the rest of their lives at the age of 16 before they've got laid. Like, especially boys. Yeah, like before they've got laid. Hold on. Doing exams.
Hold on. I need clarification. What do you mean? 22. Hold on. I need clarification, remember. What do you mean exams?
Huh?
What do you mean exams? Yeah, because we did midterms exam in the middle of the year, and then we did an exam at the end of the year to, for your overall grade to whether you're going to pass and go on to the next year.
Your overall grade, but that's what I'm saying. You shouldn't be doing exams that determine what college or university you are going to get into at the age of 16 and 18. These are very, very turbulent times in a child's life, hormonally, what they're focused on, you know, it's a whole big mess biologically
No,
speaking.
but
Right?
you have to. But when you're but Nerdman,
have
see, this is where hold on.
to
Let me ask you a
determine the
question.
whole
This
life
is where
of
I'm.
that age. So,
But
sorry.
hold on, just a quick. Let me ask you a question because here's where I'm losing clarification. Right. So, as I said, at the end of the year, you do an exam, right? So they teach you for the whole year, and then at the end of the year, you do an exam on everything you taught. If you kept it, whatever you pass, you go on to the next year. So you're saying they shouldn't do that? You just go to the next year, regardless of whether you retained what you had the year previous?
Um, no, what I'm talking about is exams that determine what colleges or universities you go to, right? The
Okay.
rest of your
So
education. I don't think you should take those exams. If it's internal exams, because different people progress at different speeds, and there should be no shame about that, right?
then how do
There's
you get into
a reason
college then?
why you
Because
have different
certain
speeds, right?
colleges,
If it's
depending on
internal
how
exam
good the college is.
to the school, fine, right? But that should
So
not subtract or
okay. So
add to what
how do
your life
right.
expectancy
So
and
how do you determine which college you get into, right? Because certain colleges are prestige, some of them have higher requisites or than others, right? So you have to do an exam to see where you stand to get
so
into a college.
there could
So
be a
what
way of, instead of doing going to university at say 18, right? Like, or 19. It's between 18 and 19 that people go to university. And then they can do their masters and doctorate after. You could do it so that you have a system where people, instead, it's between 22 or 21 and 22, or even 22 and 23, and then they do 5 years instead, where they get not only the degree, but also the masters, if so it's like
so
all in one.
what are they doing after they finish high school then?
I would say you can continue high school up until an older age, up until about
So you
19.
want to add people going to high school until they're 19, and because you're saying you can cut
I
out
would,
a few years of
yeah,
college,
go to
but
high school.
depending on but depending on what they're going
It
into,
wouldn't be
like if
high
they want to be
school
a
as we
doctor.
know it, by the way,
No, I know,
obviously.
right?
High
Okay,
school
so
as we know
but if let's say they want to go into being a doctor, then you can't cut off a year or two of them going to college and learning doctor shit.
it. But you can. What's the rush? I mean,
How?
what's the
So
specific rush
if
at
you have a 5 year
18?
course, right? If you have a college that's like to be a doctor, it's a 5 year course, right? And you learn everything in that 5 years to be a doctor, then how do you cut that to 4?
Okay, so let's break this down, because I'm not trying to. I can't, as myself, change the whole system of education and recreate it right now. Live. Like,
I got you,
all I'm
T. I got
saying
you.
is that it is a
Respect for
problem.
that.
Sorry.
No, I was
You know,
talking to T. I said
yeah,
respect for
you
that.
saw
Okay.
it.
All
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
saying is it's a problem to put that kind of pressure on a 16-year-old and an 18-year-old, and that is something that I think it would be better if they change. Now,
But
determining how you
who graduates
so for
who
instance,
graduates high school at 16?
for instance, if you want to do medicine, right? You want to be a doctor, right? And say you went to high school up until you were 20. Now, the high school that you would be in from, let's say, 18 to 20 is not the same high school as like the 16 and what younger people. It would be kind of adjacent to that. It just wouldn't be determined by, like, just you have to do an exam to get into there. That's all I'm saying. You'd still
No,
study a number of
I,
different subjects, but you
no,
could put
I disagree
emphasis.
with that.
But you could put emphasis on one subject that they specifically want to do. So,
Mm.
like, for instance, you could have all of the subjects, but then you start being able to select subjects like that you would want to study in college as well.
But that's cool.
Right? So you'd have all of the subjects. You still have math,
So now
geography.
you're basically just adding 2-3 more years to high school. It may not be high school that you went to, but it's still high school.
Well, okay, and look at it. Well, and look at it. Wait, and look at it like this because it might just make some sense. And this is where I said we get into. Well, I'm talking specifically about America, right? Because America doesn't really even consider a individual a adult at 18, right? They give them, they allow them to have some of the qualifications of an adult, but they don't really accept them as an adult. 21, that's when you're really officially a adult. So I'll just say this though. I mean, I'll speak for my country. I think Nerdman's idea might possibly think that could work here because these kids do need a little bit more time. Because we do push them out too quick, and then we put this expectation on them. That's why even when I got into my college, we had to do that prerequisite test on math and English, right? And now recently, when I'm going back to school, my college told me they took that completely away because it wasn't putting people in the best classes that they really needed or wanted. It kind of messed up people's flow. When it must be people's flow, so they completely took that away. How they do it a totally different way, but they don't do that prerequisite test at the beginning anymore to decide, okay, you need to do math 40. You're in the math 85. You're going there, you know. So, but yeah, let me play more of this.
I also generally like on a very crude sense. I think people
are. Let me play more of this video because I need Anzo to hear more of it too. It might change some of our opinion. I need to hear more of it. Let me play a little bit more.
In my opinion,
learning the lesson.
I'll play a little bit more. I have to go soon, but yeah, play a little bit more.
Wait, how long you got? Because when you leave, we'll just close it up. Since we'll let this be the last.
I would say 15 minutes, something like that.
That's fine. Let me just play a little bit more of it. Let me just play a little bit more of it, so I can hear more of their ideas.
No justification to spank your kid. If you're spanking your kid, you're emotionally unstable.
Okay. Okay. So I'll just read the verse here. So it says, whoever spares the rod hates his son, but he who loves him is diligent to discipline him. So for me, you know, I interpret that verse meaning like, you know, whoever doesn't specifically, you know, physically discipline their child hates their child. And, you know, whoever does discipline their child, you know, loves them. So, I mean, that's the way that I interpret the Bible, and I believe that the Bible is true. So, yeah, I mean, you're saying that you know, that verse, the context of that verse have to do with something else. But for me, I mean, it clearly says whoever spares the rod hates his son.
I get what you're saying, Pewter, but you can't ignore the fact that it's literally a proverb. And proverbs can be literal, true, or not. So the rod here represents a form of discipline. And when you look at the world, the ancient world, right, there perhaps were not many ways to discipline kids. So it was consistent with the life that they were living. But in 2024, why do you got to beat your kid? You don't got patience? Now, give me a scenario in which you think that it would be justifiable for me to beat my kid. Like I said to you, there's always a better option. In 2024, we have resources where we do not need to beat our kids. I don't care how bad that kid is. Under any circumstance, you can still discipline that child without ever inflicting physical pain on them with a rod.
Yeah, I mean, just give you like a circumstance, like I was saying before, and again, like this would just kind of be like our own like opinions on this thing, because I don't believe in all cases for like anything you should just beat your kid. Like I believe that it's up to the parent, you know, like it's up to their judgment, and I believe, you know, when they do determine that it is necessary, given certain conditions, and also has to do with like, you know, if the kid is a male or a, you know, because it clearly says whoever spares the rod hates his son. So I don't think that we should beat, you know, our daughters. I believe that it's only the men to like teach them, you know, a particular lesson. But yeah, I mean, if my son were to like rise up against me and to challenge me and just punch me in the face, or if my son were to go out and like grape a child, or if my son were to, you know, go out and, you know, hit his teacher, or
just to make clear, if anyone's child goes out and rapes somebody, call the police on their ass.
Yeah, exactly. That's
in that
not.
motherfucking jail. Steal
It's
something.
not about beating your child. Can you? Yeah, let's pause it there. Like, this is what we're talking about. He has to come up with such extremes to be able to justify, and those extremes are extremes where you're like, well, this is at a point that this child needs like something completely different. Now, I don't know that I would turn in my child, right? Like maybe for rape. That in fact, very likely for rape, I would turn in the child. I'd be really disgusted at that. But it would be very hard for me, you know, like to keep it a buck because if you love,
It'll be hard for any parent. I mean, it'll be hard. Like I agree with you. Yes, I agree with you. I'm going to call the police, but yes, it is going to be hard to rat out your child. I understand.
I wouldn't even want to believe that they did that. I'd probably be in denial. Yeah, I'd probably be in denial that they did that. But like, that's some sick shit that you need to call the cops basically. Because, or yeah, like I don't know, like I don't see any way around that. That's some sick shit. Like you know, and I'll blame maybe myself. You know, like what did I fucking do wrong? Like that they view women in that way, or whoever they rape in that way.
I'll say this, nerd man. There will be possibly part. Okay, this is the thing. And look at it like I always use this when I'm doing my TikTok thing. I'll use Jeffrey Dahmer for an example, right? I would say Jeffrey Dahmer is also responsible for his actions, right? But his parents also responsible too. And I'll say this: his parents saw him as a kid killing random animals for no good reason. And you know, we know when you see that, that's obvious signs of a.
Yeah, but people didn't know that back then. To be fair, that's common knowledge now. But back in those days, people didn't know the signs of psychopathy or serial.
Yeah, I'm just saying those are what the signs are. But his parents should have been like, okay, why the fuck is our son just randomly shooting or killing birds? We need to look at.
And they had the money. They had no excuse. They could have sent him to a psychologist. They had no excuse.
So we used to not me, but you know, my brothers and them. We used to go on this little place called Long Su. It was a picnic, right?
Yeah.
Do you know they used to take slingshots and marbles and hunt animals?
Oh my god!
So at the end of the day, those were the things that unfortunately I didn't do because I didn't like it. That's not how I was. But those are fortunately things that kids do.
No.
Sure,
I know. I'm not saying kids don't do that, but you got to really think about it.
You hit a squirrel with a rabbit, a marble. That's torture. I see
that's
it.
Not
that's
torture.
Yes, it is.
Torture. That's killing. That's killing the animal.
No, it's not because the animal didn't die. I seen it with my own eyes. They hit the fucking squirrel with a fucking a marble in his head, and the squirrel was like rolling around and doing all kinds of stuff. It didn't die. That's torture.
Did they want to dissect it and explore inside its body for like for
right?
No
That's
reason?
Or did they just want to kill it?
There's degrees to it.
There's levels to the shit.
There's degrees to it. But if you hit an animal, if you hit an animal with a marble and the animal suffers in pain, that is torture.
Okay, I get that, but there's different levels to this shit.
Okay, so yes, but that's what I'm saying.
For instance, a kid who will submerge an animal in water and then take it out, just as so that it can breathe again, submerge it again. That's a kind of torture, or set it on fire while it's alive, or 100%. Or set fires in general. These are kinds of abnormal forms. There's natural forms of cruelty towards animals.
So let me ask you this. Hold on, one more thing, K-Dot. One more thing, just real quick. So when you cook lobster, do you cook them alive or dead?
When you
cook lobster, do you cook them alive or dead?
Again, it's a strange thing, and there's.
I know what you're saying.
I know what you're saying. It's torture. But yes. there's acceptable norms in society of cruelty towards animals
so
that is unacceptable. but they're
You
not
think
signs of
cooking,
psychopathy.
do you think cooking a lobster alive is a normal thing?
Yes, but it's not a sign of psychopathy. One, because they're not similar enough to us, which is a strange thing, but it's true. You don't necessarily hear or see the pain and suffering from a lobster, whereas you would see the pain and suffering from,
You
say, a
hear it.
dog.
They make noise. They scream. Lobsters scream when you cook them.
Okay, wait. Add this.
Before, they
Hold
weren't
up.
screaming.
Wait. Add this into because there's many factors to why we even kill animals. Sometimes it's messed up, but there's multiple factors. Well, for survival reasons, food. Let's say if there's a issue of overpopulation, like let's say someone takes an animal from a different environment, puts it in another environment, and that becomes a invasive animal that starts to harm the ecosystem. Okay, there's a reason you got to kill them and stuff to, protect the ecosystem or food. But what Jeffrey Dahmer was doing, he was just killing animals for the fun of it, right? Because this is the thing. The people who hunt animal for sport, I think those people are weird, and I think those people are psychotic. Like there's hunting, but then there's hunting for sport. I think hunting for sport is weird, but hunting if you need to survive and eat, there's
But the problem, but again, see,
Jeffrey
then you
Dahmer
have
was
another. But
killing animals for no good.
once the behavior becomes normalized, then it doesn't become a sign of psychopathy. As much as it's an awful thing to do, to hunt for sport, right? If it's common around your area and then your kid does that, right? That does not say it's a sign of the kind of torturing of animals or killing of animals that they're talking about, as textbook cases of people that might become psychopaths or like go on to harm humans, basically.
So I agree with you. I agree with you. But
and let me make this clear. I'm not. Wait. Let me make this clear. I'm not saying people can't hunt to eat. I'm not vegan. I'm not saying that. You can hunt to eat, but it's how you go about hunting and doing this shit. Where say for sport, where you're like, well, I just want to go cut off an elephant's head and hang it up on a wall. That's some weird ass shit. Like we don't.
And then you take your kid. You take your kid out to do that. What are you teaching them, right?
I mean, if you're teaching them how to hunt for food, that's different. But if you're teaching them,
how many people really hunt for food anymore? People don't hunt for food anymore.
I mean, in some states, well, in some places, people hunt and they actually go.
Yeah, in the farms, whatever. Yeah,
I'm just talking about the people that's hunting for sport. Because think about it like this: would you go? When we kill humans, we don't chop off their heads and put them on a wall and say, "Well, I killed Leroy Jenkins." Like we don't do that shit because that's disrespectful and it would be deemed as weird. When we do it to animals, look at it as it's a sport thing. This is normal. I'm just saying that's to me it's some psychotic shit.
But let's get back to the point that these guys were making. So he gives some examples. So there was the other example: the kid comes at you and hits you, right?
Wait, let him elaborate on that because
I don't know that your kid is. I don't know that your kid is going to do that. Really, very like. There's going to be some circumstances involved of abnormal relations between the parent and the child. It can't just be a normal relation where the child is perfectly adequately treated, nice.
Yes, they can.
Wait a second. Let me finish. Children have a natural, by the way, this is a fact, right? Children have a natural instinct to obey adults and authority. In fact, human beings do in general. I mean, you've probably heard of these experiments, the Stanford experiments, where they were like, they had a kind of authority figure, and the authority figure was saying, shock these people and turn up the volume and turn it up to the point that it was lethal, and the people were doing it just because the person was an authority and they said they were an authority. That human beings, and especially kids, have an innate inbuilt kind of system of obedience to authority, obedience to parents.
No, they don't. What are you
Now
talking about?
that does not mean they can't act out and badly behave, but there's extremes to the stuff. Coming at your parent, like say with a knife or coming to hit them, I feel in 99% of those cases, something wrong is happening. Something wrong is happening.
Absolutely 100% wrong.
Let's use that extreme. Let's use that extreme because that stuff has happened before. Why is the child taking a knife and trying to take their parent's life? Is the parent doing something? Like what's
is the parent being toxic? Could it be drugs? Could it be, you know, like they have an addiction to something and that's why they're coming off?
Maybe the fucking child is just like that.
They have a psychological.
What's wrong with you guys to actually put fucking blame on the child? Sometimes they are just bad seeds. It's just the way it is.
Yeah, but Hanzo, no child.
Yes, they are. Yes, sometimes kids are bad seeds regardless.
No, but Hanzo, because no child is like born bad, but we also people have a lot of mental issues. So maybe there might be a mental issue attached to that. The parent can try to figure out what it is.
No child is born good either, right? But what I'm trying to explain to Emiu is that some kids are just bad seeds. Regardless of what you want to say, there are some kids out there that no matter what you do, they are bad seeds. Just like there are some women out there that will cheat and some won't.
Can we go back to this concrete example though? A kid lunging at their parents or coming to attack their parents, seriously physically attack their parents.
Yes.
Like,
you know how I know? Because it's happened to me. What are you talking about? Yes, my son did. Yes. We were having an argument. I told him to shut the fuck up. He kept talking. He wouldn't stop. I said, if you don't stop, I'm going to take your stuff and you're going to go with your mom and you're going to get out of this house. He said, do it. I went to go grab his stuff and he lunged at me. And I had to box him in his face. Yes, it happens.
He lunged at you and you had to box.
Yes.
That makes
he lunged at me when I went to pick up his when I went to pick up his stuff. My son was 20.
He was 20 years old.
Yes,
and he lunged.
We were having an argument. So here's the context.
So right? he clearly respected some level of authority.
He lunged at me. I went to pick up. Hold on. My son is bigger than me. Yes. So I went to go grab his stuff to put it out, and he lunged at me. He grabbed me. He put his arms around me and put me in a bear hug. I wiggled myself out, and we had a fight.
What did you do?